Hello YouTube, and welcome to episode 3 of my video series on how to deadlift over 700 pounds. So this episode is called Technique. Now, technique is so important, you know, and it really is overlooked, and I can tell you now, you need to get this right first. I can't stress this enough, because the thing is that if your technique is bad and you're training like that, you are just reinforcing bad technique, you know, and it's something that I used to be guilty of. I mean, I look back at some of my old videos from like 10 years ago, and my form and technique is real cringe-worthy. And I remember I used to post videos, and some people would take the mick out of my form and all that, it was that bad and all that. But when I post videos now, I don't really get that. No one really says anything bad, because over the years I've just gradually worked on my technique and got better and better. But I should have worked on it right from the get-go instead of just chopping and changing it as the years went by. So, you know, it's very important, especially if you're a beginner and all that. You know, you need to practice your skill, and just master your positions, you know, even film yourself if you have to, and analyse it and look back and go, right, you know, how can I do better or whatever, or, you know, look at what you might be doing wrong. But I was like, especially if you're a beginner, you really want to just master your positions and work on your technique before you even increase the load, because like I say, as soon as you know, you increase the load and your technique is bad, like I say, you're just reinforcing bad technique and you're just doing it more and more. Apparently it takes thousands of reps to actually enforce a technique that's so ingrained in your brain that you just do it automatically. So it can take thousands of reps to kind of like unlearn bad technique, so you need to be really mindful of that. Okay, because if you're a beginner and your skill is low, you know, there's no point in you doing assistance or doing deadlift variations. Just do more deadlifts, just do regular deadlifts, even do deadlifts 3 times a week if you have to learn your positions. They don't have to be heavy. You can have one session moderate, one session lighter and another lighter session or whatever, and just keep touching the barbell. The more touches you have, the more reps that you acquire with good form, the better you'll get. Only once you've mastered your positions are you then good to go up in weight. Even if you've been training for a while and you're an intermediate or even advanced, a lot of people think that they've mastered their positions and they're perfect, but I can tell you now, sometimes even when you think that you've mastered them, sometimes you haven't. Like I say, I've been training for years, and there were times where I thought, yeah, I've finally got my technique right and all that, and then I'd look back and think, well, you know, maybe actually I think I'll try this instead. I mean, for example, with my stance, you know, there were times I went really wide, and then that I felt that didn't quite work for me. Then I went narrower, and now I've kind of found, I mean, I still have I still have a wide deadlift stance, but it's not as wide as it once was. But I feel that I've finally found that sweet spot, and that's what you need to do, find that sweet spot. Okay, because the thing is that deadlifts are very individual, and you've got to learn what's right for you, because deadlifts are more individual than, say, like a squat or a bench press, for example. The way that I deadlift is probably going to be different to the way that you deadlift, and there's also going to be people out there that can deadlift 2 or 3 times a week and make gains, and there might be people that get fatigued more and they might only be able to deadlift once a week. But we'll go more into that in the programming really, but this video is mainly just about technique. So I'm going to show you some clips now of deadlift technique and the way that I like to do it, and yeah, hopefully you can take away a few things, and hopefully there might be some bits in there that you weren't aware of before. Right peeps, so now we're going to talk about deadlift technique. So we've got a standard bar here. I've only got 70 kilos on just for the purposes of this video, just to show you the technique, how I do it. So first of all, main thing, you want to deadlift without shoes. I normally deadlift in deadlift socks, or sometimes regular socks, barefoot if you can. Now, because it's a bit stony out here, I'm going to keep the shoes on. These are quite flat shoes, so I could deadlift in these. But usually I wear deadlift socks. I strongly advise deadlift socks, especially when you're going heavy. If you look here, you see I've got lots of scrapes on my leg. That's when you know you're doing it right, because the bar should keep in constant contact with your legs all the way through. We'll talk about that soon. So, first things first, finding your deadlift stance. Very important. Now, for most of you, I would say shoulder width, or maybe slightly wider than shoulder width. Now I'm 6 feet tall and I weigh about 329 pounds. I'm quite a big guy, and I've found over the years through trial and error that I normally get on better when I've got a bit of a wider stance. So my stance is generally about here, which is quite a wide stance. Over the years I've experimented with different types of stances. I've gone narrower than this, I've gone wider than this, but over time I've found that if I put my third finger here, where the Olympic ring is, so that my hands are seen just outside my arms, that is optimal technique for me. I have gone wider before, where I've gone like that, because that's about where Brian Shaw grabs the bar, but that's a little bit wider for me. My stance is more a bit like Jerry Pritchett in a way, although he's a bit bigger than me, he's 6'4", 360. But generally that's, so if we do that again, so that's perfect for me, and as you can see that's about, that's for me is ideal. But most of you watching this are not my size, you're going to probably be smaller, so you're probably going to want to go, most of you want to go narrow. I mean, I used to do this so that my hands would, the end of my hands were just inside the rings. That's how I used to go, so that I'm like that. That's probably going to be quite good for most of you, or maybe a little bit narrower than that. I mean, I've seen some guys that are this narrow. The thing is, if I go too narrow, it just doesn't feel comfortable for me. I just can't generate the power that I need to pull from there. So, so that's your stance. Now, how do you know how close you get to the bar? So what you want to do, see my feet here, you want that bar to be in the middle of your feet. So if I stand here, right, so take this foot here, imagine that there's an imaginary line in the middle of it, that's where you want the bar, okay? You don't want to be like this, you don't want to be too far back, okay, that's bad. Okay, so you want to be about here, right? Okay, so here's two good methods that you can use to find the ideal stance for your deadlift. So first of all, imagine that you're going to jump in the air as high as you possibly can, because that's where you can generate the most force. So I'm imagining I'm going to jump as high as I can. So about there, which is about, as you can see, that's quite wide. So that's about right for me. I've also found as well that because I'm a big guy, I've naturally got a wide gait as well. There's times where I've recorded myself walking, and I've just, even when I walk, I've just got a naturally wide gait, and I walk with my feet pointed out. So that's how I deadlift. I stand like that, and notice when I'm about to deadlift, my feet are pointed out slightly. That's just how I do it. Another method as well to find your ideal stance, jump off, it doesn't need to be this high, but jump off a box and where your feet land is the ideal deadlift position. There. So those are two methods that you can use to find your deadlift stance. Okay, so that's stance, and I've showed you how close you need to get to the bar. So some more tips now. So I'm just going to set up in the setup I would generally set up in. So you want the bar to be in the middle of your feet, so that as you go down, the second the bar touches your shins, that's when you're at the ideal height. So when you're going down like that, okay, you don't want to be like that. You don't want to be squatting for deadlift, but you don't want to be too high like that either. So your glutes should, the ideal position, your glutes should be halfway between your shoulders and your knees, like so. You don't want to be yanking the bar. Arms dead straight, no bend your arms dead straight. So you go, there I am, head and chest up. You want to find a point and look at it and concentrate on it. Okay, and one cue as well, imagine you're digging your shoulders down to your arse. This will help give you to lock your lats. Right, we're performing the deadlift, so I'm going to do a side view now. So bar in the middle of the feet, taking my desired stance. Like so. So you don't want to be, I don't want to see you doing this. You don't want your shoulders too far back. You want your shoulders back, so you're in line with the bar. This is the position you should be looking for. Notice that the bar's even leaving the ground slightly. That's when you know you're doing it right. So you don't want to be hunting, because a lot of people do that, or a lot of people scrunch their shoulders up. Shoulders should be back, head up, chest up. Make sure that the shoulders are in line with the bar, not forward. You should not hurt your back doing deadlifts. If you hurt your back doing deadlifts, then chances are you're probably doing something wrong. Right. So with the deadlift, the bar should be moving in a straight line from A to B. A lot of times, sometimes I see guys do this where they'll lift the bar. Don't know if you can see this, but look, there's space between the bar and the legs. There shouldn't be, no space whatsoever. Okay. That bar should be in contact with your legs the whole time. Because if there's space between the legs and the bar, you're just making more work for yourself and you're just making it harder. Think of a fulcrum. The longer it is, the further away it is, the harder it's going to be to move that weight. Whereas if you're closer to the object, it's a lot easier and it decreases that fulcrum, if that makes sense. So, like I say, this is why you see a lot of top deadlifters that have got marks all over their shins, where sometimes they even bleed, where the strong man deadlifts the weight up and the bar is in constant contact with the shins and the legs throughout the whole movement. That's what I always try and do. So like I see a lot of guys do it. You know, I saw a lad down here the other week, and there was literally a gap of about an inch in between his legs and the bar. You don't want there shouldn't be any space at all. That bar should be touching your legs the whole way. Right, another little tip as well. Once you're in the position and you're ready to lift, you want to be as tight as possible. You need to learn to brace. So I'm pulling my shoulders down, as I said before, bracing, getting as tight as I possibly can. Bar touching my legs, bracing as much as possible. You want to learn to get really tight. You don't want to just lift the bar nonchalantly. You need to really tighten your whole body, lock your body into position. This is what I do, and that's how I deadlifted 700 pounds. Chest up, shoulders back, pulling down, head up, chest up. You want to be as tight as possible. So I've had people ask me, all right, so what about taking the slack out of the bar? So for those of you who don't know what that means, so before you lift, Andy Bolton does this and a lot of top guys, but not everybody does it. So taking the slack out of the bar is basically like that, where you're basically putting on the bar, taking the slack out of it. Andy Bolton will usually do it like 3 times, and then on the count of 3, he'll pull the bar. I do take the slack out of the bar, but to be honest, most people will tell you to take the slack out of the bar, and most of the time it's probably a good idea, but there are some people that like to get down and just rip it off the floor, and it can work for them. So I find that's individual really. If you're just starting out, you need to play around with that really. I personally do take the slack out of the bar, but yeah, that's going to come down to your own preferences and whether you feel that helps or not. So I find, I mean, some people said to me when they try and take the stack out of the bar, sometimes it like puts them off or something, that they, when they go for that 1 rep max, they just want to be in that mental state, they just want to rip it off the floor and not think. Some people don't want to think about it too much, they just want to do it, and if they think about it too much, it's just, they're not going to do it, and yeah, I can understand that. So yeah, that's something you'll have to experiment with. The other thing at all, rolling the bar towards you. So you've probably seen Eddie do this and Ford do this, where they'll go like this, roll the bar. For most of you, I do not recommend this. I used to do this myself. I don't do it now, probably never will do it again. So the reason a lot of big guys do this is because they can't get down into position. Like I say, Eddie Hall did it with his 500, Ford did it with his 501 deadlift. You'll see a lot of big guys do it. But although I'm a big guy, I'm nearly 330 pounds, but I'm not 400 pounds plus. I'm not as big as them guys, and I don't really need to do it. I can get down in position just fine. The problem as well with rolling the bar towards you, because a lot of people think that a bar in motion will stay in motion, but it's not, because you're going horizontal and then vertical. And also you lose that position. Now if I do my regular pull, like so, that bar does not move. That bar is in the same position and I can just go up. Whereas if I roll it here, sometimes it might not always get in the exact same position. I have tried rolling the bar, and I found from my own experiences sometimes that where I'll start in a certain position, roll the bar away, roll it towards me. Sometimes you can't always guarantee that it's going to get in that exact same spot that you need. So I would say for most of you, don't roll the bar unless you're 400 pounds plus and you've got difficulty getting down. I would not recommend rolling the bar. Like I've done it, I've tried it myself, and it's okay, but I don't think it's the optimal way. I mean, there's probably some 400 pound guys out there that, even if you are 400, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to roll the bar. There's plenty of 400 pound guys out there that have got good flexibility and can get into the right position. Watch Jerry Pritchett when he deadlifts, he doesn't roll the bar, and he's nearly 400 pound. I mean, I watch a lot of Jerry Pritchett videos. I like the bar, I like his style, and my style is similar to Jerry Pritchett. I'm not quite as wide as Jerry Pritchett, but I try and deadlift how he does. So this bar does not move, it's right up against my legs, but shoulders behind the bar, in line with the bar, not in front, head and chest up. That just feels better to me. Could I have deadlifted 700 pounds if I'd have rolled the bar towards me? Probably not. As you can see when you watch my history, background and progress of my deadlift, I've tried lots of different styles over the years, and I've found this particular style that works now. For me, substantially wider than shoulder width, no rolling of the bar. That's what I found. Like I say, this is just me, this is just what I do. So hopefully, especially amongst you beginners, you can hopefully take some bits away from this. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend rolling the bar, but very important, make sure that the bar is touching the legs on the way up. I see so many, especially newbies and all that they'll have space in between the bar and their legs, and they're just leaving pounds, they're just leaking a lot of strength and energy doing that. Okay, so yeah, as far as the feet, like I say, for most of you, you want your feet straight out really, but I find it better. Like I say, this is right here, you're looking at my stance, this is going to be wider than most people. You can see my feet are turned out, but that's just naturally how I am. So, other thing as well, so I'm very strong off the floor, but I'm weak at lockout. I've deadlifted 320 and I failed it on 2 previous occasions, but notice that if you watch the failed attempts, you'll notice that I got the bar off the floor very quickly and easily, but once I get to the knees or above the knees, I struggle at the lockout. If this is you, the best thing I could prescribe is just work on your lockout, work on your glutes and all that, because that's what I had to do in order to get this 700. Because if you watch me do a max deadlift, I try not to hinge where I don't have to. Hinging is allowed in strongman, but a lot of times I'll go like that, and then once it's heavy, you'll notice me start to go like that. So if you do struggle at lockout, best thing I can advise, once it's above the knees, just try and engage your glutes as much as possible, and just try and lock that weight out any way you can. Because like I say, form is going to go out the window a bit when you're on heavy weights. Now I'm going to talk about the program that I used in order to get to the 700. But basically, if you look back at the last 9 weeks in particular, in fact for the whole training program, you'll notice that I didn't hinge and I kept perfect form throughout about 95% of the program. It was only at the very end when the weight was getting very heavy and I was reaching the end of the peak that I started to hinge my reps, literally on the last 2 weeks basically. All the rest of the time, pretty much perfect reps really. So that's what you want to focus on, right? As I said before, you know, technique, you know, if you're a beginner, this is what you want to focus on. Forget the weight and just focus on your technique and get comfortable. It will take time, you will have to do lots of practice to ingrain them positions, but eventually you want to get to the point where you can do it without thinking about it too much. Like I say, if you're a beginner when you're watching this, and you know, hopefully this has helped and you've taken away a few things, and even if you are an intermediate and you've been training for a while, hopefully you might pick things up that you weren't aware of before. Because like I say, it takes years to perfect your technique. It's taken me years. It's, like I say, I've changed my start so many times over the years. I've gone narrower, I've gone wider, I've gone somewhere in between. So it's taken me time to make my mind up and decide, yes, I think this is best for me. So like I say, hopefully after watching this, hopefully you'll be able to hammer your technique a little bit quicker than what I did. So that's the technique.